to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello, good morning, happy Monday. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I really appreciate you, and I hope that you had an amazing weekend. I also hope that I had an amazing weekend because I have recorded a ton of episodes in advance to come out while I'm on my honeymoon so I can enjoy it without thinking about it, but I digress. Sorry about that. Today I have something special for you. It is my interview with Theresa Tringale, who is yet another bold move maker that I'm excited to feature on the podcast for you. Theresa moved around in the world of the United States as well as in the world of her career and is about to make some more bold moves as well in her couple businesses as a jewelry designer as well as an event coordinator and consultant. So if you're ever interested in having an event, this is a great one to listen to, and honestly, her social media is great to check out as well for event planning tips. Anyway, she has an amazing story to tell as well as a cool giveaway that involves your choice of either jewelry or an event consultation. So make sure you listen to the end so you can check that out. All right, without further ado and no more babbling by me unless there's some in the interview, here is my interview with Theresa Tringale. Hello, welcome everyone to the Bold Moves podcast. I am with Theresa Tringale, and I'm super excited to hear your story. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, and I'm so excited to hear what you have to share with us. So you know that we're called Bold Moves. Obviously, if you hadn't made some yourself, you wouldn't be here chatting with me. So why don't you share a little bit about your background and perhaps some risks you've taken that you've lived to tell the tales of?
Yeah, barely live to tell the tales. But I guess this story goes way back to I would say the biggest bold move that I ever made started back when I chose which high school I was going to, which I forget about this choice, but sometimes I'm reminded that this is probably where my courage first began. But in my town where I grew up, you had a choice. You could go to the traditional high school or you could go to the vocational high school. And the vocational high school had a reputation of being the school only for those who went to college. And it was just a rumor that that was the way that vocational education had been looked at traditionally in the past. Okay. But for me, I felt like I was somebody who needed to prove everybody wrong. And so I knew that when I went there, I was going to not only go to college, but I was going to do very well as a student. But I'm a tactical learner anyway. I'm a hands-on learner, and I think that that's really what attracted me to the school. So vocational education is where you not only get a diploma in academics for your math, science, English, language arts, but also when you get a diploma, a high school diploma in a skill or trade. So that could be culinary arts. It could be construction trades like carpentry and electrical. It could be cosmetology or trades like dentist, being a dental hygienist or a nurse. So I actually went to a vocational school. My trade was culinary arts. And I just loved it so much. I basically went to school for a week, and then the next week I was in the kitchen and I was running a dining room, or I was cooking desserts or baking and making wedding cakes as a 16-year-old. And I saw it as a really fun vacation every other week. But really what I was learning was a skill and a trade that would carry me on as I continued to make big, courageous, bold moves in my life. So after that, I did go to college. I went to Emerson College in Boston. I'm originally from Massachusetts. And as I was in college, I started working at a restaurant. And that was the first time I had ever worked at a restaurant, which a lot of people worked in restaurants in high school, but for me, I just never did that. And when I started working in college, they were like, are you sure you've never worked in a restaurant before? You know everything that you're supposed to do. And that's when I realized that it was my vocational education that actually helped me be a step ahead of everybody else in this industry. And that's when I knew really that no matter what choices, no matter what moves I made in my life, I would always have this skill set that would back me up. And and that just kind of gave me this underlying fundamental courage to just do whatever my heart told me I should do, which after college, I spent a year in Boston, and then I had a lot of friends who were in New York City, and I would go and visit them a lot. And every time I went, I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like this song in my heart was calling to me from New York. And so one day I just decided I was going to pick up my life and move to New York City. And I had no job when I moved. I had nowhere to live. I just had some awesome friends who let me stay on their couch. And within 2 weeks, I said to myself, I will give myself 2 weeks to find a job. Otherwise, I would do the thing. I would go to the restaurant world and I'd start working as a server or in management. I could do all of those things because I learned how to do that in high school. But within a week, I actually landed a job as a sales assistant at Women's Day magazine. Okay. And that led to a 7.5-year long career in magazine publishing, which is not anything that I ever wanted to do, but event management was always something that I was really interested in. And so I just kind of saw it as a way to get into this crazy, ridiculous, amazing industry and work my way up, which is basically what I did. And I was at one and then I moved over to Men's Journal magazine for the last 3.5 years that I was in New York. And I was the events expert on both of those teams, but I also learned about marketing. I learned about advertising. I learned about sponsorships and how to kind of find advertisers, what their goals are, and align them with your brand. And these are all things that have helped me as I've continued to evolve and figure out what I want to do with my life. Sure. And then after 7.5 years, my parents actually moved to this vacation town in Maine that we had vacationed at for years and years. And they moved to a house that's a 5-minute walk from the beach. And every time I would come home to visit them from New York, I would feel like I wanted to stay in Maine.
Yeah, but song in your heart calling you somewhere.
Yeah, again, the song was calling to me, but I knew that New York wasn't right for me. It was there was a couple things that just don't sit well in my soul. One was that I was too far away from my family. Sure. Also, just it is insanity in New York. If and you either have what it takes or you're willing to sacrifice a lot for that. And it just got to the point my brother was having a baby, my cousin was having a baby, and I just really wanted to be closer to my home, to my family. And I didn't know for a while what that looked like, but I actually made a trip on behalf of Men's Journal up to this mountain in Maine called Sugarloaf, where I interviewed on behalf of LL Bean and Men's Journal, I interviewed a Olympian by the name of Seth Westcott, and I just fell in love with the state. It was my first time flying into Portland, Maine, and driving up to Sugarloaf, Sugarloaf is a huge ski mountain. It's a very big part of our culture here in the wintertime, because Maine is challenging in the wintertime if you don't love outdoor winter activity. And so I just fell in love with it, and that's when I started looking at Portland, and I, again, just made a big move, and I resigned again with no job, no idea what was going to happen. I really didn't know what would be available to me, and all I knew was my parents lived 40 minutes south of Portland, so I would figure it out. And again, I said to myself when I moved home, I said, I will give myself 2 weeks to find a job. And then if I don't, I would find a serving job up in Portland, so that even though I was living down at my parents' house, which is south, I was still building a life for myself in Portland.
Yeah.
But again, within a week of being home, I landed a job. I started working for the Portland Press Herald, which is a big newspaper here in the state of Maine. And I was working on their as their marketing manager. And again, helping them with sales and promotions and advertising. And then also I was the events expert on that team as well. So then I was there for 2 years, and I just, it wasn't right. It wasn't sitting well in my soul. When I left New York, I didn't really plan on being in media anymore. And it was just the job that ended up showing up for me here, which I think everything happens for a reason. And it was definitely a great way for me to get to know this community and get to know Maine by working for the local newspaper, but it just wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so I took a huge leap of faith and I started freelancing. I just left the comfort of a full-time job and I just put my hands into the faith of the universe and said, okay, I'm ready to take this leap. And things showed up for me left and right. I worked as a bartender at a restaurant, but so that was kind of just keeping me afloat, but I was able to do freelancing for different events in the community, different food festivals. An organization that I had been part of since I was 18 actually hired, and I've been volunteering for them since I was 18, actually hired me as a consultant, which was wonderful. And so it was just like little things like that just kind of popped up for me. But I did a year of freelance, which was, exciting and so scary. And, the financial burden of having to take care of yourself, always have enough money to pay the bills. I mean, that is, just the ultimate stress factor sometimes, unless you can get yourself out of it. But after a year, I just realized that I'm actually much better with a structure and with a schedule that is consistent. Mm-hmm. And when I was closing my restaurant 2 nights a week, which meant that I was working till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
And when your schedule is off like that, some people may be able to work that way. And I just realized it just was not working for me. Right. And I started saying to the universe again, I'm ready for a full-time job, but I want it to be, something I can believe in. I want to work for somebody I love. I want to still be able to do some of the side freelance work. I don't want to have to work at the restaurant anymore. I want it to be a flexible schedule. I started listing all these things that kind of seem a little bit unrealistic. Sure. But I put it out there and it showed up for me. And now I am a very proud member of an organization called Winter Kids, which is a nonprofit that is all about getting kids outside and active in the wintertime, which I'm a huge proponent for outdoor activity in the wintertime. I love to ski. I've been skiing since I was 3 years old. I also own my own side business called Mainly Ski and Ride, where I actually take people up to the mountains for the day. I just kind of organize a whole bus trip, and it includes coffee and bagels, and you go up and lift ticket, and we have happy hour, and it's just a really fun day. So I just kind of really integrated myself into the winter world and up here, the culture, which is huge up here. Sure. And so when this job showed up for me, where it was going to be all about just putting my passion for outdoor activity in the wintertime to work, it was just kind of like, I don't see a better job for me besides something that I could, if I ever created a business, that I could employ other people. So, which sure. is in my future, but for right now, this is where I'm at, and I'm able to still do some of the freelance stuff on the side. But yeah, so and I'm the manager of special events and sponsorships. So I get to raise a ton of money to help kids get outside and active, and it's super fun. Not a lot of people are lucky enough to be able to say that that's what they do full time. So
for sure,
I'm very, very, very fortunate.
So it sounds like you're using some of the experience that you gained with the event planning from your vocational training in high school, as well as all of that marketing, advertising, dealing with sponsorships that you got from your magazine and newspaper experience, combined with your passion for winter sports.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
All of the above. Yeah. It's very much, I pinch myself often that I was lucky enough to find a job that incorporates everything that I've worked for and that I've learned into one place. And I think that I totally think I manifested this for myself in a big way. But
sounds like it. If you make a list and then it comes out just perfectly in line with that list, it's not an accident.
Yeah, for sure. So I got to make more lists. I got to make more lists.
Absolutely. List, vision board, something.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so a couple things. Like, with all of these bold moves, it seems like they're kind of on a whim, last minute choices that you're just like, well, it'll work out. And it does. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, I would say, the timeline for New York was I decided in May and I moved in September.
Okay.
And then the timeline for Portland was I did the interview at the end of October and I moved by the end of February.
Okay.
So there is a little bit of time in planning, and it was more so about when I left for New York, it was that I wanted to spend the summer home. I didn't want to go up to New York in the summertime.
Okay.
And I wanted to save enough money to get to New York. And so it actually was always a financial timeline.
That's kind of what I was wondering, because it almost sounds like there was no planning, like the way you told your story, and that you're just like, I'm going tomorrow, it'll work.
Well, I was breaking it down a little bit more, but So no, the time I left New York and went home, it was financial, so that I could save a little bit more money, but also I had a project in New York. At Men's Journal that I had been working on for a couple months, and that was happening at the end of January. Okay. And I really, really wanted to be a part of that. I didn't want them to take that away from me, or for me to leave before I could see that through. And it was a road trip through Texas to see all these different restaurants and awesome chefs. And just like, I'm not missing that.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. So, and I'd been working on it for like 5 months before. So I was like, there's no way I'm missing that. But then also I did give them a month notice, which I wasn't necessary. But I wanted a full month I felt like I had been there for 3.5 years. And so I could at the very least do that for them. And then also I wanted to stay one more month so that I had a full month I didn't have to worry about my rent or whatever.
Sure. Gotcha.
I don't know if that makes sense.
There
was a little more plan. I'm definitely a planner. I definitely can't just pick up my life and move. That'll freak me out. But it is in essence to just, I probably both times it was about 4 months of planning.
Okay.
I did do the mistake of calling my mom, and I thought she would be really excited when I said I'm going to come home, and she kind of lost her mind a little bit because she thought I was just like not thinking about it at all. And her mind immediately goes to, how are you going to afford that? And this, that, and the next thing. So I had to call her back when I was like, okay, here's the plan. Here's the financial plan. This is how we're going to pay for it. This is how everything's going to work out.
I've actually thought this through.
I've actually thought about it. There's probably a job up there for me somewhere. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
There was a little more planning involved. Yeah.
So with your current position with Winter Kids, like I've never been to Maine. I've been to New York, and I'm from the Midwest where we definitely have winter. So my curiosity is I'm looking behind you in our video chat, and I see bright sunny skies and nice green trees, and you have a picture of a beach on the other side. So I'm guessing that it's not always winter in Portland, Maine. And that you have 4 seasons?
Yeah. Oh, we have the most beautiful 4 seasons. Yeah. I think that's part of it for me too. Since I grew up in Massachusetts, the 4 seasons are a very big part of my life. And I actually spent a semester in college out in LA. And when I did that, I was like, there's no fall. It was there from September to December. And I was like, there's no fall. There's no season. Where's the leaves? Where's everything? And I learned then that having 4 seasons is a very big deal for me. I'm actually home this week. I'm at my parents' house because I'm on vacation. I'm taking the week. So I'll be heading to the beach as soon as this conversation.
Fabulous.
As soon as we're done. But this is a big time beach week for 4th of July. And my parents live in a beach town, so I'm able to take advantage of that.
That's awesome. So my question is, with a occupation that is focused on winter, what do you do the rest of the year? Because I guess I kind of think about when I see tourism and it's, like those towns, like your beach town that you're probably in right now, and there's all those things geared for the people who come for the summer. And then I'm like, what do these people do the rest of the year? So I'm curious how that works with, I'm sure you're obviously not leading tours up on the mountain with your side hustle that you've made for yourself, but what about with winter kids? Is it just planning for winter? And how long is winter for you?
So I have two major events that bring in a significant amount of our fundraising. The first one is a silent and live auction that we do. And that one brings in, well, this year it's going to bring in $30,000 more or more. And that happens in November, and we see it as kind of the beginning of November, and we see it as a kickoff to the winter season.
Okay.
And then we do a 24-hour ski challenge.
Wow.
At the mountain. Yeah. And so that event actually brought us in over $300,000 last year.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty insane, and it's very, very intense. So there's so many details. We serve about 400 to 500 skiers and snowboarders who are participating. And there's just a lot of different elements happening throughout the 24 hours. So that event in itself takes up a significant amount of my time. So one of the things that I am loving about this job that I have never really been able to do in the past is take the time to plan thoughtfully, because it's always been just one. In the past, I've always had just one event right after another from that event, and you move on to the next one, and then all of a sudden it's 6 months away from your next event, and you're just going with whatever you already know of what you did last year, and maybe improving as you can. So a lot of what we're doing right now is planning thoughtfully for the upcoming year. So really thinking about how we can make the silent and live auction bigger and better and more successful, and same for the downhill 24. I just started in this position last August. So I actually started kind of late. I started and I had to hit the ground running, and I didn't really have time to get to know our community and get to know the people who were the players, if you will, of our big events. So now that I know everything, I've done it all once, I feel like I'm much more prepared to really think things through, and what's a better way to communicate information, and how can we set up our tools in a better way for people to serve them better so that they want to help us, because I need to create an environment for our people, our supporters, that is easy, that is clear, that is fun, so that they want to participate and be a part of what we're trying to make happen. So that's a lot of what I'm doing right now. Also, I am in charge of sponsorships. So now our fiscal is June 1st to May 31st. So I'm actually working right now on sponsorships for the next year. So I'm actually, it's a tough time to do that because a lot of people are on vacation right now. I mean, it is vacation land. So, and everybody utilizes that time. So I'm trying to make meetings and connect with people the best I can now, so that they will be supporting us in the coming year. Our programming department is working on what they're going to do with the programming for the teachers and for the schools, because they'll actually start training teachers as soon as they're back in September, so that they're prepared. Part of what Winter Kids does is we actually train teachers on how to take the kids outside and be active with their lesson plans outside. So that's actually what a lot of the money that I raise is supporting that programming that's happening in the schools. So our programming team is working on what that programming looks like for the upcoming school year, so that come September they can start going and training the teachers for the school year. And then it's like kind of like as soon as November rolls around, as soon as the weather starts to get cold, we are fast forward and all of a sudden it's April. So it's just like, where do we take our time now to be really thoughtful and do a nice job of prepping ourselves so that really we can just move and we can just go.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
Oh,
And of course,
yeah.
you need money year round. So
That's right.
I don't mean just
I need
personally,
to be paid all year. Yeah, yeah.
but
For
the
sure.
organization as well. That makes sense. I'm curious, in all of these bold moves, and it could also be something that you haven't mentioned yet, what's the scariest thing you've ever done or the scariest moment you've experienced?
I think it probably was leaving the job here in Maine and going freelance,
Okay.
because that was I'm leaving the security of a paycheck every week. I'm leaving the security of health insurance. I'm leaving the security of knowing where my money is coming from. I would say that was definitely the thing that got my heart racing a little bit more.
Sure.
And so because I've experienced all of this stuff, I've started to really try and make other things. The freelance stuff still makes me nervous because even with my full-time job, I still need to make extra money on the side, and I really don't want to go back and bartend. So I'm really trying to build a business, an online business on the side as well, utilizing these event skills that I have.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that it's kind of like that's the one thing that comes so naturally to me that
Right.
Sometimes when I'm talking to people, they ask me questions. I'm like, well, of course you're just going to do this. And it's like, no, that's not, of course. It's kind of like, no, that's the thing that, because I know I should be sharing with everyone else. So I've started to really put myself out there as an events expert and try and figure out how I'm going to build that into a business. And actually putting myself out there in that form instead of just me to my friends and my community and people who know me, that has been really scary, because suddenly I'm switching over to this. It's not just fun and whatever pictures. I actually have to be strategic in the way that I present myself and, on Instagram and even Facebook. And it's nerve-wracking to me that I am switching modes like that. And that now all of a sudden I'm putting myself out there as this expert that, I mean, in reality, if you talk to any of my friends who know me or business anybody I've worked with, they'll say, yes, that's exactly who you are. But I don't know, does my community see me that way? Does my network see me that way? And so that has actually been really pretty scary too, to just kind of put yourself out there and say, I'm trying to build a business for myself. And I mean, most people are very supportive, but you just have it in the back of your head, like, oh, what are they really thinking? And do they think I'm, who do I think I am? It's that whole imposter syndrome thing that, you got to get over it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm curious, both with the leaving your full-time job for the freelance time that you did that, as well as now creating this new business online. How do you recommend pushing past fear? Like, what did you do yourself, and what would you recommend for somebody else who's maybe looking at a bold move?
Well, I think a big part of what I've started to do is really, I listen to podcasts as often as I can whenever I'm in my car or I'm walking, just inspiring podcasts. One of the books that I'm going to tell you about later, I listen to that as often as possible on Audible. I just try and listen to people telling me how awesome I am.
Sure.
I try and surround myself with people who can help me with my, I'm thinking this, what do you think? And then when it comes to just like taking action and sitting down and doing the work, which it's a lot of work. And I think that that's what people need to understand, is that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes thought. Is that I actually will put a timer on my phone. I'll sit down, put my headphones on, even if I'm in my apartment by myself, and I will put a timer on and say, you cannot move for 30 minutes. You cannot do anything for an hour. You are just sitting down and doing the thing that needs to be done right now, whether that's I finally got my website up. I started making earrings, and I was posting pictures online, and people were like, tell me where I can buy these. I was like, I don't know. So I made an Etsy shop. Like, you just have to like do the thing, right? So that you can do one step at a time. So then I made an Instagram for that Etsy shop, and I just spend 15 minutes working that, and it's just kind of, there's better ways to do it, I think, like make a full list and do all the things that you're supposed to do in Think and Grow Rich. Make your list before you go to bed of 5 things you want to do the next day. I think I could be better at all of it, but it really is, for me, it's just about doing the thing, because I know the thing to do, and then I'm scared to do it, or I'm nervous I won't do it right, or I'm nervous I'll spend too much, which I do. Sometimes I waste too much time trying to make something perfect, instead of just moving forward. And I think sometimes that makes me stop. But it is really, whether it comes out nice or horrible, at least I'm doing something. So
sure. I love that.
It helps.
I think it's so true, because I think a lot of times people get stuck in like the over-analysis, or I guess analysis paralysis. And then again, the imposter syndrome that you spoke about, that if you just do the thing, you don't have time to think about it. And then you've made progress, and hopefully that momentum can carry you.
And I've just kind of gotten to the point that I'm like, I can't think about what anybody else is thinking about me, because I'm doing something different than what a lot of them are doing. And so it's just kind of like, if you can't understand it, we can talk about it. You can ask me about it, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Sure.
But if you're not on my team, then, that's that. And, we don't have to be on each other's team, and that's fine. But it takes a little while for you to be okay with that.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you just ignore the inner critic.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think there's a book called something like, it's something about riding a bus, and like the people that you want are going to get on your bus, and not everyone's going to get on the bus, but like those that are there are the ones that matter, I guess, in these cases.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because I know very little about event planning, and that seems like something that would primarily be like a case-by-case basis that you would not necessarily have to be in person from. I did plan my wedding from across the country, so I know that's possible. But how are you making that into your online business?
Well, my goal is, I realized a while ago that my mission in life is going to be, or is, to help to create experiences that change lives.
Okay.
And I've done that myself in several different ways. And I think that what I want to do is help others create experiences for their audiences that can change lives. So I have been to several conferences or summits for different podcasters, or different, life coaches or business coaches or whatever. Everybody has their thing, and they have their audience. Right. And at the end of the day, everybody, this particular audience of people really just want to create a live event that can change people's lives, people who come to the event. And what I was talking to a lot of people. I actually, I'm also the president of a board. I have a lot going on. Called the Maine Women's Conference, and it started as just this small group of women who wanted to create something that there's a conference that happens down in Massachusetts. It's a multi-day conference, but it has 10,000 women who come, and every year they have incredible speakers, but it's just a full-bodied experience of feeling like you can take on the world when you leave. And that's what we wanted to create here in Maine. And when I joined the board, I was the logistics chair, and then things happened, and leadership changed, and I became the president. And basically, I had no experience being on a board. I had no experience being the leader of a group of women that are so different.
Yeah.
I actually joined the board to have the experience of being on a board, and then I ended up leading the board. But really what happened was I happen to have this knowledge of how we move forward with all the different elements of an event. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, a wedding is different. The elements of every wedding are there, and how you execute those are up to you, and you can be really unique about how you do that. But for a conference where you want to educate and you want to inspire and you want to empower, there are really, very common denominators amongst all the different events, but you can customize them in all different ways. So that's really how I want to create, but the questions are all the same. How do you get a sponsor on? How do you find speakers? How do you get people to help you? How do you pay for it? How do you find a venue? What do I look for in a venue? Do I find a venue first before I find the people? So there's all those basic questions that it doesn't matter if you're planning an event in Portland, Oregon or Portland, Maine. They're just the basic questions that need to be answered. So what I'm hoping is that I can create answers to those questions for people that will resonate with other people, everybody who's interested in creating these experiences. And I actually got the idea for this because I went to a conference last fall, and I was just talking to somebody, and she's just in a completely different industry. She was in horse barrel racing, but she was an expert in her field, and she wanted to create a multi-day conference for her community. And she said, I have a question about event planning. How do I find speakers? How do I get where do I even go for the content? How do I find a venue to house?
Yeah.
Just like, oh, that's all stuff that I do so easily, but people don't know where to begin, right? So I'm trying to work on creating that content, creating the timeline, the process, and create the opportunity for people to feel empowered that they can do that themselves instead of having to spend thousands of dollars on an event planner. Especially if you're planning an event for 50 people or 100 people or 200 people, you're not planning that event to make thousands of dollars. You're planning that, the reason you're planning the event is to make a connection with your audience that's different than a podcast connection or a blog connection or an Instagram connection. This is a real live experience that people, and the other part of it is it's unique, right? So even if you do the event every year, that one event is going to be unique because the same group of people will never be together. The same speakers will probably not present. If you have the same speakers, they won't present the same content in the same exact way. So it's really cool that you get to create these unique experiences again and again and again. So my thought is to empower people to feel like they can do that, no matter if it's 50 people to 500 people. If you do go up to 1,000 people, you might want to hire somebody to come in. And but also, there's power in enlisting the help of people in your community as well. So, we on our board for the Maine Women's Conference, we have a group of women. Everybody has a role. We have a programming department, programming chair. We have a sponsorships chair. We have an expo chair. We have a governance chair. So everybody has their role. And this is also, as you might be the leader of the group, you might be deciding what the content is, but this is a really nice way to get other people in your community involved in your event. Because maybe there's somebody who's better at getting sponsors on board than you might be, or maybe there's somebody who's better at marketing than you might be, and it's just it's a good way to be able to enlist the help of other people who also might have the audiences that you might want to reach to get them to that event. But so there's all different ways. I don't know if I answered your question. I kind of went off on a little tangent.
Yeah. Is it more going to be like an online course or a book?
So
or
my thought right now, if you followed me on Instagram, which is Mary Theresa Tringale, it's all one word. It's a lot, but it's all one word.
That'll be in the show notes.
Oh, great. So it's tips, event tips, Monday through Friday. Just an event tip that's really quick and easy. I'm putting the information, but I'm going to at some point bring that all over to a blog on my website. And so then but to help people, I'm working on a toolbox right now. And the toolbox will have, that's a downloadable toolbox. I haven't figured out how much it's going to be yet, but it's a downloadable toolbox, and it will have like a budget template in there. It'll have questions to ask when you go see your venue. It just is basic downloadable stuff. The number one thing you need to figure out when you're planning your event is your mission and your vision. Because if you don't figure those two things out to start, then you are going to be going all over the place and you won't know how to make decisions.
Right.
So if you have a vision of having an event for 100 people, you don't want to find a venue that houses 1,000 people.
Right.
Right. So if your vision is to have 100 really engaged, dedicated people, then all your other decisions are going to be based on serving that vision of 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
And your mission is what you're going to tell everybody. This event is here. I'm here to do this thing. Here's what you're going to walk away with. My mission is to serve you, to empower you, to educate you, whatever it may be. And those are the two things you have to establish first. So that will be in the toolbox also. So once I get the toolbox all set, then after that, I hope to have like an 8-week online group session course that will be people, however many, 5 to 10 people who are in the process of planning their events, or maybe they just want to know if they should plan an event. I think the course will be more for people who are wanting to actually plan the event, so that we can actually go through the process and we can actually talk through all of those steps. And if you have questions, I can help you. But the other thing that is available right now actually is to do consulting hours with me. I have this is available to anybody right now, that if you go online onto marytheresatringale.com, I have a free 30-minute consultation. So we can talk. It can be if you are in the middle of planning your event and you're stuck and you need some advice and you just need to talk some stuff through, I'm there for you. Or maybe you're just like, I don't know, I'd really like to have an event and I don't know if that's right for me. We can just use those 30 minutes for whatever you want. And then after that, I have consulting packages online for just talking things through on a Zoom call like this, so that, it's just good to have somebody ideas off of. And then eventually, once I am done with winter kids and I've done my time there, I want to be there for about 2 or 3 more years. Then I'd like to start actually serving the people in person. If anybody wants to hire me to actually come in and execute their events, I'd be available for that. But for now, while I have a full-time job that I love, I'm not available to be traveling the country to execute events, but I can help in other ways.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that, when you're planning an event, the most important, or one of the most important things to start with, is a mission statement and vision. I'm wondering, and if I know that this is like a big question and a lot of people don't know the answer, it's something that changes, if you know your own purpose or have a mission statement for your life.
I truly do believe that my mission statement is to create experiences that change lives. I think that I do that in so many different parts of my life. From I really love planning a ski weekend just for me and my friends, but it's always about, or a girls' weekend with my girlfriends from college. I just find experiences can be so empowering, whether it's casual, or whether it's, you know, really formal and put together. But I even just being with my best friend since I was 6 years old, she's here with me at the beach, and her daughter is here, and it's like, this week is an experience, right? And as long as I, you know, do my best to create memories for her and, you know, be there for her and talk to her, these are the things that you'll remember forever. And it could change, you know, who knows what I'll say to her that will, who knows what I'll say to her, but who knows what will actually resonate with her, she'll remember, you know, forever.
Yeah.
So this all started for me when my girlfriends and I from college, we try and get together at least once a year for our, we try and get together once a year. It doesn't always happen. People keep getting married, and that's when we're getting together. But we got together, the last time all of us really got together was for our 10-year college reunion. And it ended up being the most incredible weekend, just completely unplanned, that it was really fulfilling for me. We just got together in Boston, which is where we went to school, and we got hotel rooms and we went out to dinner. But it wasn't about the things that we did. It was about the conversations that we had with each other, the laughter that we had together, and just taking the time to really truly be together. The structure did have things that we did that forced us together. So dinners and working out together and stuff like that. But it's just, we talked about so many things that, from, you know, some of our lives highs to some of our lives really lows. And we just walked away from that weekend. I remember walking away from that weekend just feeling so emotionally fulfilled by these friendships, and thinking, if this is what happens when women can come together and be there for each other, truly be there for each other, you're being vulnerable and you're being open and you're being true. You're speaking your truth every moment. It's just, that really ignited something for me. That's when I really wanted to start planning. I really would like to do like conferences or retreats for women that are weekend-long ultimate girl weekends, and I'll get there someday. But the other thing that really changed my trajectory, I think, for wanting my personal mission statement to be about changing lives, was I actually had the honor of creating a high school sports awards here in Maine. High school sports are a big deal here in Maine. And so our newspapers are very involved. They're at every single game. And so we wanted to create something that was really spectacular. It was kind of like a mini ESPYs. That was our vision, a mini ESPYs, but for Maine. And when we created it, you know, it wasn't just about the best athletes. It wasn't just about the best basketball player, the best hockey player, the best swimmer. It was about every athlete. It was about celebrating every kid. And every decision that I made while I was planning that event was, how can I make these kids, these students, these athletes feel really, really special, experience something that they may never experience again in their life. And so we created a red carpet with a step and repeat with a photographer, and they got interviewed on the red carpet like they were a real rock star. They got swag bags that were like $500 each, like kind of like how you get them at the Oscars, only you got them here. We did, you know, for the NFL, they do the videos for the football players when they kind of introduce themselves and they say their name and what college they went to and what position they play. We did something like that. We had every kid send in a selfie video, and we put it up on these 12-foot by 12-foot screens with music, and just, I mean, and then we had opening videos that just featured them. And it was a big celebration of them. And most of these kids will never experience that again in their life.
They're going to remember that forever. That's really
cool. And then we all Teen Choice boards have, you know, the custom surfboards. So I totally stole that idea, but I did snowboards because we're in Maine.
Makes sense.
And the kids got custom snowboards with their names in the category that they won. And it just was really, really awesome. And then, so one of the girls who won is this athlete who, she's on the spectrum, and she was at on a co-ed team, and I think it was best school spirit, or I forget what category, but we had our community nominate everybody, and then our sports room went through and decided who the finalists would be out of these nominees, and there were 5 finalists for every category. And her school bought 40 tickets and filled a bus from an hour and a half away, and filled an entire bus to come and cheer her on. And you want to talk about somebody who's not getting a scholarship to college, who's never going to be on the best of list, who's never going to, receive best athlete accolades. We were able to celebrate her in a way that she will never probably experience again. Or I hope maybe someday she will be, but she probably hadn't up to that point.
Sure.
And
I got goosebumps. That's so
yeah,
cool.
It was the coolest thing. And I actually, I knew who was going to win. And I knew that they were bringing a bus full of people.
And that actually they went insane.
And so I put them right up front. And we told all the kids that they had to wear school spirit. So, they were athletes, kids showing up in some kids had to come right from their softball game, and, they're all dirty and covered from head to toe. And, some of them were wearing their uniforms, and it was just so fun. And this girl won, and she got up on stage, and the newspaper wrote a whole article about her. And till this day, that project was a lot of work, but it's still one of my proudest moments, because talk about creating an experience that could change a life. That was it. And so it's just like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. That's what I want my career to be focused on. That's what I want everything that I do in my personal life to be about. And so, yeah, that's what I think for me, that's what that's all about.
That's awesome. I love it. You were talking before about how to get past fear, and you mentioned listening to podcasts, listening to books on repeat on Audible. So let's hear it. What are your book recommendations?
Okay.
I'm wondering if I can guess it, because I think I have an idea, at least which one you're listening to on repeat, but I want to see what.
Do you want to guess?
I don't
want to tell you. Okay. So the repeat is You Are a Badass.
That was going to be my guess.
Okay. Jen Sincero. I love her. And make enough money, my personal coach. I just listen to that as often as possible, and I love that book so much. I bought it on Audible and the book, so I have both. And there was a time that she sent out an email. I'm such a sucker. She sent out an email to everybody saying, I'm 5 steps away from being number one. So I don't even know what the thing was, but she was like, Can you go out and buy 10 copies and give them to all your friends? I was like, yes, I will. And I did that. I didn't have the money for that, but that's what I did. And I just give it to anybody who I think needs it. And I just love the book so much. And when I'm feeling down, I put it on in my car and blast it and just listen to her tell me how much of a badass I am.
Have you been or applied to be the badass of the week on Instagram?
I think I did it once or twice, but I keep forgetting. To do it. I gotta bring the book down to the beach or something. I'll do it this summer.
There you go.
Do it this summer. I love her so much.
I haven't actually read that book. I've only read the money one. I did it in the wrong.
Oh, yeah. So the money one. So here's the thing about books and me. I am reading them, and when they're like, go do this right now, I'm like, okay. And I put the book down and I go do the thing, and I never get back to the book. Because I'm just like, I have to stop what I'm doing and do the thing they're telling me.
That's what I did too. It took a while, but it was worth it. And I think I'm going to get it and listen to it.
I mean, if you just buy her, she does the Audible.
Yeah. I bet she's hilarious.
It's hilarious. I'm constantly laughing out loud, constantly. The other book that I recommend, or that has made a big impact on my life, is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that one?
I have, yes.
Okay.
I haven't read it, but I've heard it.
That's another book that I was listening to, and I was like, okay, I have to get the book itself too. So there's been quite a few of those. it really changed my perspective of the morning. And I'm a consistent 6 a.m. worker outer at CrossFit. So that's a big part of my my miracle morning. And I think that the other parts of it I do throughout the day. I probably could spend a little more time being more focused, but for a long time I actually did do a very structured miracle morning for a good 6 to 8 months. And I'm kind of letting myself be a little more flexible, because I think I got so structured with it that I got really intense about it. And then if I didn't do it, I got mad and got down on myself. So I find other times throughout the day to do the other pieces of the miracle morning. But I do believe in the miracle morning in whatever way that it can help you. So those are 2 personal development that I truly believe in. And one book that I think anybody should read, no matter if you're an athlete of any kind, like you just want to do a 5K, you just want to like run down the street 100 meters and not die, or you're a swimmer, or you are just trying to do something in your life that you just don't know that you can do it or how to do it, is Swimming to Antarctica by this woman, Lynn Cox. And it is one of the best books I've ever read. It's a book that I read and I pass along to other people because it's just so good. And it's interesting because I think it took place in the 80s. I think it's her whole life story of her open water swimming career. But it's back in the days when email didn't exist and texting didn't exist. And she had to her mission was to actually do open water swims that connected 2 different countries. And so she had to go through the process of connecting 2 countries by writing letters and making phone calls and going to visit people and going to visit high-level people and talking to them and telling them about herself and getting them to agree to let her to enter their country. And one of the greatest parts of this story, I mean, besides the fact that you actually are reading her thoughts while she's swimming through Antarctica, and you think about what that must take mentally to be able to swim through all of this incredible. I mean, it's not just in Antarctica. She swam through the Nile. Like at one point, she put her hand in a carcass of a animal and had to keep going. I don't know, but
I'd be out for a week after that.
Right. Well, she was. She got very sick. But it's just such a cool story of spirit and enduring the odds. But the best part about the story, I mean, Antarctica is cool, but she actually during the Cold War, or right after the Cold War, she actually got the United States and Russia to agree to let her swim across the Bering Strait from Alaska to Russia. And she talks about how there's a point that she leaves her guide boat in the United States and has to keep swimming, hoping that Russia is there to pick her up on the other side, because the United States had to stop where they were and they couldn't keep going to pass over the international waters. And she basically had to put her faith in Russia to be there when she got there. They said they would be, but so it's a really amazing story of just triumph and persistence and just going. It's really just going for it, doing the thing.
I think I need her on a podcast.
I don't know where she is right now. Woman now, because this whole book was written in the late 80s. I'm not sure, but it was on Sports Illustrated's all the top 100 books of all time for any athlete of any kind. So, but yeah, she's amazing. And then another swimming legend of mine is Diana Nyad, and Diana is the one who swam from Cuba to Cuba.
Yeah, I remember.
She's amazing. She has a book too. I'm in the process of reading that. But an honorable mention, I must say, is Mel Robbins' Kick-Ass.
Okay.
It's an Audible. I mean, Mel Robbins is the 5-second rule, and she's amazing anyway. But her Kick-Ass Audible book right now, because it actually is just a compilation of all these live coaching sessions.
Okay.
Will blow your mind. It's amazing. It's so amazing. I listened to it in a day. It was so good.
Incredible. I saw her live and I saw Diana Nyad live speak.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and they were both great. But yeah, I didn't
Diana
know.
Nyad makes me cry every time I listen to her.
I love it. I didn't know that Mel Robbins had so many books. The last podcast interview I did too, I was like, wait, what? I thought she just had the 5-second rule. So
Well,
I need to step up my Mel
Kick-Ass
Robbins.
isn't a book. It's an
It's the audible.
audible of these live coaching sessions. So I don't
Sure.
know that she's going to turn it into a book, but it's kind of weird. It's basically like one really long podcast. It's like 8
Okay.
hours of podcasting, but because it's
Interesting.
all just live, her kicking your ass into like mental clarity.
Yeah, she did that in like the half hour that I saw her live
Yeah.
at Success Live. So that doesn't surprise me. I can't imagine what one would do after 8 hours of it.
Yeah. No, she's amazing. She's amazing.
I love
So,
it. So those are great book recommendations. I'm wondering if you have any other advice, tips, anything you wish you had learned sooner, anything you'd like to impart on our listeners or viewers to pass on.
huh. Well, I believe that every decision I've made in my life I've listened to my heart the
Mm-hmm.
entire way, my intuition,
Sure.
and I've made a lot of big moves and changes, and I think that because I've done that, it's put me on a different timeline. I'm single and I live by myself and I make decisions for myself, and I'm 35, and I think that my community where I grew up, if that's all my friends were married by the time they were 24, 25, 26 years old,
Sure.
and even friends of mine in New York are starting to settle down. So when you make a lot of moves like this, you're picking yourself up and stirring the pot, so
Yeah.
things are different. So I think personally I'm on a different timeline. That it's my timeline, and I've followed my heart every step of the way, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that every decision I've made has been the right one because I've listened to what my heart and soul was telling me. So I think that it's really easy for you to get caught up in what the timeline is supposed to be, and all these
Sure.
people who are telling you, you should be making this much more money when you're at this age, or, you're this far along in your business, or, you can always take that left turn.
Sure.
And eventually you'll get there. And so I think that would be my biggest piece of advice is ask yourself the question and listen to what your intuition has to tell you, and follow your heart, follow your bliss. And I think that will always lead you the right way, and your timeline will be your timeline, and you'll figure it out when you're supposed to.
I love that, and that makes so much sense, and I honestly feel like that is something I've been thinking about recently, and a reminder that I always appreciate, because I kind of can mirror a lot of that, in that, I'm at a different place than a lot of my friends, and there's a few other
Yeah.
friends who are on their own timeline as well, but I totally get, being from the Midwest, same kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
You
Sure.
graduate
Well, I will
college
say,
degree,
yeah,
do your
when
thing.
I moved to Maine, people were like, so you're single? So like, you've never even been like close to engaged? You've never even been like in a serious relationship enough to be engaged? It would have been more appropriate for me to have been divorced,
Yeah.
married and divorced, than for me to have never been in a relationship that wasn't right. So
Right.
there's a lot of that going around. I mean, that, like, I moved here and that was what was happening. So it's kind of like I have to, continue to listen to my soul and my heart, and not listen to the people outside of my life, because it's not their life, it's mine.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and just keep making the moves that make sense and that are right. And yeah, so
Absolutely. Okay, so
yeah.
you've kind of said a little bit that you have things on Instagram, which is at your name, and then is
Yes.
your website your name as well?
Yes, MaryTheresaTringale.com.
Perfect.
And it's one of those, like, you're just going to make moves instead of worrying about everything being perfect. So there'll be more coming.
Sure.
But, follow me on Instagram, and join me, sign up for the email list. If you'd like, otherwise I will have more for you as time goes on.
Very cool.
And I'm in the process of figuring out what I would like Facebook to be for me.
Okay, sure. Well, keep us posted so
Just
that we
the
can.
personal page. So
Okay.
yeah.
And then are the earrings, that was kind of a side thing that you mentioned, but are those your Etsy page, is that linked up as well?
Yeah, so that's all. I have it. If you go to my Instagram, I link you over to that page, but it's I am Auntie Mary.
Okay.
The shop is called I Am Auntie Mary Designs, but I actually started the jewelry because I do hand stamping too.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be all these different I am statements because I believe that I am is two of the most powerful words in the English language because whatever follows, you are. And right now, the most important role for me is that I am Auntie Mary.
Okay.
I have 4 nieces and 2 nephews, and they are so awesome and important, and I want to inspire them the best that I can.
Cool.
So that's why I called it that.
Do they have Cafe Gratitude on the East Coast? Are you familiar?
No.
Okay.
Cafe Gratitude.
Yeah, it's out here in California, and actually the names of all of the meals are affirmations, and to order them you actually say like I am serene or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So they have your concept, but
That's cool. I mean, I'm
No
all
way.
for wherever you can do an affirmation.
It's very California.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Not
am
very,
peaceful, but I
not very
really want
Boston.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we'll have to check that out too. Are you wearing your own earrings now?
I am.
Perfect.
These
They
earrings
are
are
cute.
actually, I'm doing a giveaway right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure when this will be live, if it'll still be happening, but they are for sale. They are Swarovski glass beads, but there's lots of different. I started doing the stamping, and then I found a bead store that just blew my mind, and now I'm into bead work. And
Awesome.
so, but yeah, hopefully some people will really like them. I'm hoping that like brides will want them for their weddings and for their bridesmaids gifts. So
that's an awesome idea. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, people will be able to check those out as well, and we'll make sure that's all in the show notes too.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yes. So I'm saving my final question is my favorite question that I always do last. And it is, if 8-year-old Mary Theresa could look at a crystal ball and see from 8 up till now and follow your own timeline, as you've said, and then you, of course, can see, you kind of sound like you have a couple years planned out. God willing, if you follow that, on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would little Mary Theresa be to see where you are now and kind of the foreseeable future?
I think she'd be disappointed that I was still single. She'd be like, "What do you mean you didn't find Prince Charming?" But I think that she had no idea how awesome life is and how badass life can be. And
I think she would still get to see how you feel too.
I think that she would be like, "Oh, you've done quite a bit for yourself." Yeah. And I think made a lot of things happen for myself. And I think she'd be feeling inspired by that or empowered by that. Because I think that, when you're so young and you think that life is just going to kind of fall out in the way that you need it to. And so I think that you just think that things are going to happen in a certain way, and then they roll out, and you just have to be stronger than you think you are, and stronger than you think you have to be at that young. But I think also the whole message of it gets way better. It gets way better. I think so. I think she would be kind of a little confused, but excited.
Cool. 1 to 11. Where do you think?
She'd probably think I did a pretty good job, like a 9 or a 10.
Okay, we'll take that.
Yeah. I think that I think that, I've come so far. It's so different from where I grew up and who I was back then. That, I think that the message of just keep doing you and keep being you, and don't be afraid of these other people who don't understand you.
Yeah.
It gets way better and you'll be fine.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great advice to close out on too.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for your passion and sharing this experience. You have another one now with
thank you.
Listeners. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to know you and to see where we both go from here on.
Absolutely. All right. Wasn't that fantastic? I love her energy and her attitude. It's so refreshing. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Now, like I said, you can find all of her book recommendations, links to her website, etc., as well as your way to enter to win either your choice of a pair of earrings that she will make for you or an event consultation. And you can do that at the show notes, which are at www.mandiem.com/episode 189, because we're at our 189th episode. So make sure that you check that out. While I'm giving orders, I would love it also if you could share this with anyone who you think would find it inspiring or informational or entertaining or whatever you think someone else could get out of it. If you got something out of it, then somebody else probably would as well. So help me please on my mission to reach as many people as I possibly can to hopefully inspire them to go after their dreams and live better lives than they're living right now, because there's always room for improvement. I would also love it if you would subscribe so that when Mary Theresa's challenge comes out this Friday, you either get an automatic download or an alert. And while you're in iTunes anyway, or whatever platform you're listening to this on, you may as well leave a 5-star review, because that is another way of enlisting the help of iTunes itself, or again, whatever app you're using, to spread the word and help me make my mission a reality. So I would really appreciate any sort of sharing and reviewing and spreading the love, I guess, basically. All right. Again, stay tuned for Friday so you can get Mary Theresa's challenge. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.